Hello and welcome to Essential Racing Strategies. Let's get those beautiful pencils out and sharpened. It's class time. What is Essential Racing Strategies and what is it all about? This is a video series dedicated to helping racers improve their ability to race against other drivers in Gran Turismo Sport Mode. We now find ourselves in the final video of the 9-episode journey that we embarked on nearly a year ago. We've had strategies for E-ranked drivers all the way up to A-ranked now. If you're finding this series for the first time and you happen to be ranked lower than A, you may want to backtrack a few episodes. You'll be able to find those episodes either in the description of this video or the ending screen. The original plan for this series was to have a total of 9 episodes. However, this episode does not conclude Essential Racing Strategies as a whole. But more on that at the end of this episode. This video we are now on covers the mindset that an A-ranked driver ought to strive for when seeking to reach the next level. C-rated lobbies, they had their challenges. B-rated lobbies had their own set of challenges. Both of those ranks have a majority share of mistakes and deliberate dirt from other drivers. You are ranked higher than that now, but there will still be times where your mental strength will be tested in the A to A+ lobbies you find yourselves in now. Today, we aren't necessarily going to focus on how to handle being a victim of people's careless or willful recklessness, because we have covered that at length already in the previous Mindset episodes. If you haven't seen episodes 3 and 6 where we cover this extensively, then I do highly recommend that you watch those eventually, as it could really provide some help for your future races. Instead, we will focus on the internal struggle that we all deal with at times when getting frustrated with racing. Really, I want all of you to enjoy the journey, and it is possible to do that with the right mentality. So what is the mentality that we should have? The mentality I am promoting and suggesting for us is to dominate the emotions and dominate on track. So what does that look like? How does that all play out? Well, that's what we're going to get into here. Firstly, dominate your emotions by being patient with yourself. It is now time for a different kind of patience that you didn't need before. The patience to know that this will take time to advance to A+. There's no way around it. Your wins and finishes in the top half of the grid will not make as much of an impact on the DR bar that you see next to your rating. It will take a long stretch of time, but that is okay. You must embark on the journey before reaching the destination. And when you reach the goal, it is made all the more sweet because of the road it took to get there. This is where really enjoying the journey takes place. We often want instant results, right? And if you are struggling to find the pace that you're looking for among A and A+ ranked drivers, those results, really, they won't be coming fast. Some weeks will be great, others will be tough. But as you put in the work week after week, the pace will come, and you'll find yourself keeping up with the quick boys out there. Next, dominate the track by determining to succeed. You see, I really believe you will need a different kind of determination than maybe you've had before up to this point. Because there are going to be setbacks, there are going to be tough races, and weeks that don't seem to go your way at all. Overcoming all of this will require you to determine not to give up. Still work on improving and getting the best results you can. I find, and maybe you have too, that if you set a goal to accomplish something, determine that you will achieve that goal, and mentally you accept no alternative. I believe that if you've done that, you are 90% of the way to actually seeing that goal become a reality. Conversely, approaching a goal with a defeatist mindset almost guarantees that you won't achieve any goal that you're set for yourself. Next, dominate your emotions by knowing when to stop. Some weeks, let's face it, some weeks are not going to be your week. You may need to avoid the races altogether some weeks. And honestly, if none of the combos for the week appeal to you, feel free to take the week off. Maybe just do the time trialing. You can do the practices, of course, but the racing itself can be avoided. Some weeks will be tougher than others. You will likely sometimes just need to focus on one track per week instead of all of them. This is especially true if you have, like me, a limited amount of time to race each week. Maximize your potential by selecting combos that you are good at, that you would naturally feel comfortable in. And if you choose wrong, like I have sometimes, don't be afraid to move on to a different combination or wait until the next week comes around. Another option for you, though, is to race in an alternate account where the DR gains and losses don't matter to you as much. This is a great option if you still want to gain experience and implement the racing strategies, the racecraft, do all of that without the fear of losing DR points. Next, dominate the track in the first lap of every race. I'm going to make a proposal here that maybe you don't expect because you've heard quite the opposite. Races can be won or lost in the first lap. Now, because this is the opposite of what we normally say and believe, hear me out. Normally when we say you can't win the race in the first lap, we're talking about someone who's overeager and tries to do way too much in the first corner or the first lap and honestly ends up wrecking themselves or wrecking other people and that sort of thing. But in the A to A plus lobbies, you can either set yourself up in a position where you can have a great advantage, or you can put yourself in a position where you are at a disadvantage. Let me explain more by what we mean and what we don't mean, okay? What we don't mean is to be overly aggressive and make poor, reckless choices. However, we do mean don't be a pushover either on the first lap. Entering the first corner from either a standing or rolling start means a different lift point or braking point, and sometimes even a different turn-in point. Critical distances can be lost from taking the first turn nonchalantly. And huge tenths can be gained by studying how to take the first turns of the first lap smartly and quickly. Our mentality should be ready to take each corner as close to perfectly as possible. Small mistakes can take you out of the running for a victory or top 5 finish. Likewise, well-executed corners and good decisions can put you in the running for a victory, podium, or top 5. Next, dominate your emotions when you make mistakes and when others do you wrong. Don't let hits from others or your own mistakes snowball into a multitude of errors. Let's face it, sometimes our own mistakes, they can get us very down on ourselves very quickly. Mistakes or even dirt from others can also slow you down and make you crash. Not only that, the game does you wrong sometimes, right? When the game does you wrong, overcome injustice by locking in. Don't do what I do in these 2 races I'm showing you right here, where the game gave me collision pens when other people had crashed into me. While I didn't give up, I really wasn't at the top of my game because it really got into my head, those 2 races. And then there's these 2 fellow racers who was probably done the most wrong by the penalty system I have ever seen. I understand the track limit pens, but 5 seconds of what I assume are collision pens, the game doesn't say. Collision pens against another driver who had actually crashed himself. He then proceeds to demonstrate what rage quitting really looks like. I can't really blame him, but even with those pens, a good finish was still possible. A finish at least that would be better than a DNF. All of these scenarios, they strain our mental fortitude. Setbacks are often the springboard to make more mistakes. When that happens, we must mentally calm down and get back to the rhythm that got you that qualifying time. Next, dominate your emotions when more than half the grid is actually A+ ranked. That's right. As an A-ranked driver, you're going to see many A+ drivers in your lobbies also. And at times, you're going to be in a mixture of cars and drivers where they are all a lot faster than you. However, you must see this as an opportunity, not as a setback. Remember, the amount of DR you gain or lose, it isn't based on where you start to where you finish. Moving up or down in the grid doesn't affect driver rating. DR rating has everything to do with where you finish in relation to the strength of the competition you're racing against. So if there are 10 A+ ranked drivers, and you are one of the 6 A-ranked drivers in the lobby, you have a tremendous opportunity to gain DR because of how strong the field is. Also, I'd like to say you must see this as a right to belong among these drivers, and not generate a feeling of being out of place. I remember when I was in a Nations Cup race where I was A ranked and everybody except one other person was A+ ranked. I looked at that and I said, what? And my initial response was, I don't belong here. And I actually chatted that in the GT7 chat. I said, I don't think I belong here. And I got some encouragement from some of the other guys in the lobby. And because of that, I was determined to do as well as I could. Sure enough, after qualifying 13th, I finished 4th. I underestimated myself. And underestimating myself, it could have cost me. If at the outset of a race you think that you don't belong, honestly, you very well could prove that to yourself with poor driving and mistakes. But I would suggest that often those mistakes are because the mindset you had caused that performance. Likewise, if you believe you do belong and have earned the right to race with the fast boys, then you are more likely going to drive like you do belong there. Look at it as an opportunity. It's an opportunity that you have earned. With all of this said about our mindset, let's get to our key points to drive home. First, dominate your emotions. Don't let them dominate you. So much can happen to you in one race. More can happen to you in a week's worth of races. If your emotions get the better of you again and again, it's going to be really tough to advance to the next level. Next key point is determine to dominate the track. This isn't to say that you will dominate every time you get on track, but mentally see yourself as belonging on track with other fast drivers. Be laser focused on your brake points, turn-in points, acceleration points. Little by little, you will become more dominant on the course. Don't fall into the trap of feeling defeated, even before you begin a daily race. Last key point, and I think this is really important. Enjoy the journey. Look, every journey has its ups and downs. It has its highs and lows. Take it all in. Enjoy it. Not every experience will be great, but the overall journey, that can be. And when you finally reach that milestone of A+, it will be all the more sweet because of what it took for you to get there. Now that this set of 9 episodes is complete, what happens next? That's a good question. Well, as we look back on the various episodes on this series, I see what could probably be best described as a general overview of racecraft and approaching sport mode at the different levels that we find ourselves in. But I do believe that we need and can do a deeper dive into the details and narrow our focus to specific areas that we have definitely not touched on yet, or maybe just touched on briefly and need to develop further. Areas of racing like passing, defending, strategies regarding brake balance, many things that we're able to cover. I am really looking forward to getting those videos together for you in the coming months, and we will see you then next time on Essential Racing Strategies.